Hey, welcome to the Nintendo Bros podcast. This is Pete,
This is Derek.
and we have a special guest here today, my good friend Matt
Kloske. You can
Kloske.
call me Kloske.
How you doing today, Kloske? How do you feel to be on the Nintendo Bros podcast?
Excited to be here. Never done anything like this before, so let's get to her.
You're officially a Nintendo Bro.
Welcome
All
to the
right.
world of video games.
We haven't had a podcast for a while now, Derek. We've been busy,
Yeah.
but this is a very important, monumentous occasion. We only get to talk about a brand new Zelda game. What? Last year we talked about one, I guess. So
like once every
year. But this is a big deal because it's the first 2D Zelda in, I want to say, 11 years. Is it 11 years since Link Between Worlds?
Oh, 3DS. Oh, crazy.
I don't know that.
Yeah, it was 2013, November. I was there. I don't think I'm not counting Link's Awakening remake here, but yeah, so it's been 11 years since a brand new Zelda top-down 2D. And also, this is the first Zelda game, the first traditional Zelda game where you can play as Zelda herself. You know, we could play her in Smash Bros, we could play her in Hyrule Warriors, but this is a big deal.
Wasn't that Cadence game? Couldn't you play her in that?
Yeah, but I don't. That's a small indie
Oh,
developer.
okay.
This
Sorry,
is-
deep cut. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and
Sorry,
and so
doesn't
this game was developed by Grezzo, who also did Ocarina of Time 3D, Majora's Mask 3D, and a Link's Awakening remake, among some other games. I think they did a Yoshi Crafted World, could be wrong. But this game, even though it was developed by Grezzo, also had Nintendo EAD Studios kind of like spearheading the project. So it wasn't really like a third-party developer.
Like-
It was Nintendo proper.
Is this kind of similar to Metroid Dread, kind of like where it's a second party, but they have a lot of handhold, like kind of oversight?
I would say even probably more because Grezzo is a Japanese company, and Mercury Steam is a Spanish company, and just had oversight from Sakamoto and some of the a few figureheads. But I believe with this game, don't quote me on this, but from what I've heard, Nintendo had a big presence on it, and Grezzo was almost like a support studio on the technical side. But anyways, I digress. We're gonna review and discuss Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This is a big deal, guys. Get hyped to our three listeners out there. Don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. It's not like we have a commercial break.
We might after this episode blows up. But anyways,
My Helix mattress is wonderful. No, sorry.
NordVPN. Anyways, Kloske, I'm so glad you're on the show. I know you're a big Zelda fan. You and I talk with every Zelda that comes out. We talk about it. You beat this game way before me. You usually 100% or get close to 100%ing Zelda games. So just to start us off, tell us about your history and how you feel and your kind of your feels about the Zelda series, specifically the 2D Zelda series.
Oh, okay. So my love for them is A Link to the Past. That is my favorite Zelda game. When I remember when A Link's Between Worlds came out for 3DS, playing that game and then some of like NPCs talking about events that happened like 15, 20 years ago. Getting goosebumps, getting all kinds of feels. I was like, that was me. I did that. I did that in my childhood. And just like having that nostalgic feeling, every Zelda game kind of gives you a little bit of that. And like even the Echoes game, all of a sudden, the very first scene, you're in Link's house, you see the tunic, and you start seeing things in the room that you're like, I know this room. This is all this. I've been here before. So I don't know, my history to the series is I've played all of them since the original Zelda game. I remember playing that in grade 1 before going to class. Every morning going over to my buddy's house, 7:30 in the morning until 8:15, 45 minutes of Zelda every morning, then go to class, running to catch that class. Yeah,
Grade 1 running.
yeah, like I have memories of Zelda just breaking my brain trying to figure out where the hell to go. Because this is pre the internet. This is like you had to spend money to call Nintendo Power back in the day to get those like tips and tricks, or you had to start paying for those magazines, which I definitely did. I had all of them for a really long time.
Did you
That's
did you
I
beat
would.
the very first Zelda when you were in grade 1?
I mean, eventually, after spending money on phone calls.
That's
You
impressive.
actually did that.
I didn't do it
phone
till
call
it was for
guides.
Wii, and I used a guide. That's for sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Derek? Tell us. I know the 2D series has been a big deal for you.
Yeah, like same as Kloski. I think my number one, if not top three, game of all time is A Link to the Past.
Nice.
Link Between Worlds I loved as well, just not it doesn't quite have that same it's not in my top 100 even. Like it's a great game, but it didn't quite nostalgia is a special thing and one of those games you grew up with. I remember A Link to the Past going to visit my cousins and this is like a deep, part of the game, but they were showing me how you got silver arrows in the level 2 boomerang. And I was like mind blown because I was like, I don't know, 6 years old. And I was like, I didn't know you could get, upgrade your bow and arrow and upgrade your magic boomerang. So that was really awesome.
What cousins was that, Derek?
That was Ruth and Ben.
Oh no, yeah, I remember they were really into Zelda. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So, but two that are just games I've only played once, maybe twice through each that I really, really hold fondly are the Oracle games. So Oracle Seasons and Oracle of Ages. Love both those games. I love that kind of you can change the world, and I like games that they synchronize. So like you can carry the code over to the other. I'm a big Golden Sun fan, so they have that kind of carryover code as well. Um, I played Minish Cap a little bit. I played. Um, every other one besides Minish Cap, I think
How
I've
about you?
beat.
What about Minish Cap for you, Kloske? Did you play that one?
Loved it, killed it. Yeah, totally. And the Oracle games, it's funny now that you say this, I now want to go back and play them the opposite way of how I played them as a kid. Because I
Yeah.
did ages and then seasons. I need to do seasons then ages.
Yes, and do
They've
the
got to
carryover
remake.
code.
They've got to remake those eventually. I figured.
I
Okay.
wish they remade them with the style that Echoes of
Link's
Wisdom is.
Awakening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and
it
Echo.
looks great.
At 20 frames.
I
Yeah,
never played Zelda 2 and I never played, like the CDI ROM games.
those don't
But
count.
yeah, otherwise I've played literally every single one. I haven't beaten like Wind Waker, but I've beaten
Wow. So you know what? You guys are more into the 2D Zelda than I am. For me, I started off with Ocarina of Time. I kind of dabbled with the Zeldas at friends' houses, and I remember we rented A Link to the Past when we were a kid, but it was too hard for me when I rented it.
we owned it.
We did well, not till later.
Oh.
Well, I remember renting it a few times and being like, "This is so hard. I couldn't even get past the intro." I mean, I was like 6. Um, But I remember Ocarina of Time was a big deal. I was obsessed with that game, and then every Zelda after that I played. So I kind of got into the 2D Zeldas later, with the Wii Virtual Console, and I mean, I never played. I'll admit it right now. I never played the original Link's Awakening. I did on 3DS, but I didn't beat it.
And I think you ever played DX for color when they added that extra dungeon.
That
That
was
was
a
like
wicked dungeon with it.
No,
Were
I didn't.
you gonna pick the certain tunic to
I
wear?
didn't
Love
play
it. Oh.
Oracles of Ages, Oracles or Ages. It's Oracles of Ages and Oracles of Seasons, right? That's what they're
Yeah.
called. Never
yeah.
played those. I got about two-thirds through Minish Cap on the 3DS Ambassador program. I played a little of Four Swords. I think we played on the Link to, there's two versions of Four Swords. There's the GameCube version and the Game Boy Advance part of Link to the Past remake.
Did you ever beat A Link to the Past for real?
I admit that I didn't. I got to I had like two dungeons left. It's a shame.
What are we even
Deep
doing in this
gamer shame here.
podcast?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Hey,
Eric, so what's going on? Like, are we
that's
All
why I
right,
got you
how do
two.
I
That's
mute the host here?
but I did. You know what? I did. I loved A Link Between Worlds. I loved it. I loved Link's Awakening, the remake, and Echoes of Wisdom we're about to talk about. And I'm more of a 3D Zelda guy, but I do really enjoy 2D Zelda. I am someone, by the way, where I don't consider me not playing a game if I didn't beat it. All right.
For sure. Yeah, I just want to throw out one more Zelda game to see what you guys have played of it, because I only played a little as Triforce Heroes. I think
Never
I
even
played
touched it.
I played for maybe I think an hour.
I owned it and tried to convince Hatch to buy it so that we could find a third person to try and play it with.
I would have been the third for sure, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
yeah.
I do own it, right? That's a
It
3DS one.
doesn't. It doesn't look good.
It's
Uh,
not yeah, it's not great.
I will say it is the reason I own 4 Game Boy Advances and 4 of those connector things for GameCube is for
Really?
that.
Well,
That wasn't Crystal Chronicles Final Fantasy? Oh.
No, surprisingly it wasn't. I wasn't a
Plus,
Final.
yeah, I just got Four Swords for GameCube, so we should play.
Oh, I mean I do have it, and like I said, 4 of those adapters and 4
Sweet.
advances. I think I have 5 advances now.
Also, side note, I finally tracked down a instruction manual for Mario Party 7.
There you go.
Anyways, let's move on. So, just a quick question, guys. Has a Zelda game ever made you cry before? Derek,
Cry?
cry. Drop a tear.
No, but there are moments in Breath of the Wild and Echoes or
Tears?
Tears where I was like, this is a moment in my gaming history. Like this is a moment. Like when you first jump off and that music's playing off that first plateau at Tears, I'm like that's just it's just a moment,
Yeah.
like It's one of those things that gets defined into you.
How about you, Kloske?
I've never cried in a video game now that you say that. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll cry in a movie. I'll cry in Pixar movies. Like, I, I've never cried in a video game.
Okay.
I don't know
You never
why.
Last of Us opening sequence.
I will shamefully admit that I have never played The Last of Us.
What?
Wow, we
This is
got some
embarrassing for
shame
both of
on the
you.
show.
Yeah, jeez.
I played The Last of Us.
Like 100% Nintendo baby over here. Like
Okay.
if it's a game that Nintendo published, I've probably played it and beat it and probably own it. But as far, yeah, like I own The Last of Us. I've never sat there and tried and just gotten into it. That's the worst part. I have it. I have it. It's here.
Well, I'll
Crazy.
admit, Tears of the Kingdom made me drop tear. Uh, you know what? And it wasn't any
Actually
moment.
cry? Like actually,
I didn't cry. Just my eyes got watery and I felt really, really sad because
oh,
it
okay.
was
I do have feels.
right before I was gonna finish the game. I knew when I beat it, I was done. And I kind of just went around the world and I gave like a spiritual goodbye to all the places and the characters I go. I've spent over 100 hours in this world. I've been
You
playing for a year. I'm about to say goodbye. Anyways, let's move on.
Wait,
Uh,
no, no. Before you do, it's funny. I was, traveling. And I met a woman in a bar or whatever. And we were talking about video games, and she told me she still hasn't beat Tears of the Kingdom, solely based on she knows that when she does, she probably will. It'll be the end of it. So she just keeps exploring because she
wow.
doesn't want it to end. And I went, wow! Like she hasn't even played the new Zelda game because she can't. She doesn't want that one to end. And I'm just like, that
Wow.
says something for a game. It's
I know
eerie.
eventually I'll replay Tears of the Kingdom when it's like got a 4K remaster, whatever. But
You and your frames.
I think because of Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think I'll ever replay Breath of the Wild.
Me neither.
I just
I
don't think
really
I can go back to it knowing it's the same world.
like. I want to go back to Tears of the Kingdom and play for another like I don't know 30 hours, whatever. Do more shrines, kind of see more to it. But Breath of the Wild, I just couldn't imagine going back.
Yeah, me neither.
Uh, all right, guys, let's talk about the game of today, which is Echoes of Wisdom. In many ways, this is kind of like the swan song of the Switch. This is probably the last big holiday exclusive for a Switch or Switch 2, let's hope.
Fingers
Um,
crossed.
fingers crossed. Um, but it was announced in what was it announced? I think it was in June during their like E3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
E3's dead, but their E3 Direct.
Surprise.
Now, it was a total surprise. Now, Derek, I'm gonna ask you first. What was your expectation and feeling when it was announced, and like how much hype did you go into this game with?
I wouldn't say it was high height, but I wouldn't say it was low either. Like, I really like the 2D Zeldas, and I was looking forward to playing another one. I really like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, but I, was a little bit tired of that formula of just kind of like freedom, not the standard kind of Zelda formula. And the reason I was a little bit hesitant about being super hyped is watching, Echoes of the Wisdom, that first trailer. Um, I had a feeling it was going to be similar to the like the other 2D games where it has those dungeons, has that kind of overworld. But I also noticed like you can do those t bed stacking and kind of just the mechanics made me think more of like this is a lot more freedom, creative, kind of like how you do the fusing and building with Tears of the Kingdom. That I was like, I don't know if I really am gonna like this game as much as the 2D. Like I really like the original formulaic Zelda games. And that doesn't mean I don't like the new kind of path they're going on.
Like the open, more you prefer the more linear structure as opposed to the open
I like the
structure?
linear structure. We'll talk about it later, but one of the big things I really wish they brought back in this game or had in other games recently is like the power-ups in a dungeon. Like I really want to get the hook shot or get an upgrade that I go, as silly as it sounds, I always think of when I talk about this specific, I talk about Twilight Princess the spinner. It's like one of the most useless items ever given in a Zelda game, but it's freaking cool when you first get it. You're like, damn, this is cool. This dungeon works well with it. It works in a couple other places. Like, this is really cool. Where this game, I liked it. I like that you got all these power ups
Well,
as far
but
as
we're
the
talking about your expectations.
yeah, yeah.
So this is what you were thinking
Sorry.
when you watched that
Yes.
trailer.
So when I watched it, I was like, I could already see it being closer to Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like you get all the powers really early on, and you got to get small modular things part of that upgrade, but it wasn't like these big moments in a dungeon where like, oh my God, I had this thing that I can now use around the whole world. It's like, oh, I have another way to jump to a higher thing. I can use.
But that's not that actually. We can talk about it later, but I don't think that actually ended up being the case with Echoes of Wisdom. I
I
think it
mean,
actually
we'll talk
solves what
about
your problem was.
we'll talk about it later. But anyways, I wasn't like deflated by any means. I was like, this looks really good. But I also went in thinking that it was going to be closer to Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild style than I originally wanted it to be.
Okay. What about you, Kloske? How were you feeling when they announced this and going in the hype you had going into it?
Oh, I mean, I was stoked. First time getting to play Zelda, I was like, whoa, it's like, anytime you tell somebody you play that game, they're like, oh, Zelda's the hero. It's like, no, Link is the hero. It's just the Legend of Zelda. She's who he's trying to save. So it's a funny dichotomy to finally like get to be her, get to see the adventure of her. I was excited from the beginning. I knew after what happened with Tears of the Kingdom versus Breath of the Wild versus Link's Awakening, I did not have any. I knew it was going to be different. I hoped it was going to be still feel like a Zelda game. I was curious how they were going to kind of connect everything. And even playing Hyrule Warriors, like it was, awesome to be able to play as Sheik in there and play as Zelda in there. And, yeah, I was nothing but pumped. Yeah, I was excited. And when I saw the bed building, I'm like, what is this? What else am I going to be able to copy? What am I going to be able to do with this?
They had a trailer that came out closer to release where they showed what's it called where you link to an enemy and you can like ride them. It showed
Yeah.
horseback riding. It showed some more features, and that's where I got much more pumped. Where I'm like, whoa, they've really exploded what this game can do. I don't know if you saw that trailer before release, Kloski, but
No.
it was kind of like maybe it was like a month before it came out. They kind of dropped this trailer, and I remember I was talking to you, Derek, and we're like, this looks hype.
It was like a 5 minute gameplay trailer, I think, where they kind of went
Yeah, like
through. Yeah.
horseback riding and had all this other
Yeah,
stuff.
I didn't even know you could horseback ride until I found the horse, and I was like, let me get that horse. I need to get me on that horse.
Yeah, that was
But
funny.
then, you got it. I wrote it a little bit, and I went, cool. This is slow, fast transform.
I'll admit before we get into it, I didn't ride the horse very much.
I haven't
I
ridden a
also
horse
didn't
yet in the
play as
game.
Link a lot.
Wow,
Oh, sorry.
wow.
What was that,
Okay,
Derek?
spoiler.
I didn't ride a horse at all in the game.
The whole game?
Yeah, and can I also I don't know if the down on the D-pad does anything. I don't have anything for the down on the D-pad.
I neither do I.
Okay.
No, I don't think the down on the D-pad did
Okay,
anything either.
okay, okay. And I only the one other direction on the D-pad that you is optional.
The
I
robotics.
yeah, I got it and never used it. Never
Yeah,
used it
well,
once.
well, the automation. Okay, we can talk about that. But anyways, it sounds like Kloski and I were on full hype thrusters. Derek was apprehensive.
I
No,
also
no,
never.
I wasn't apprehensive. I was middle of the road. Like I was like excited, but I wasn't like, normal Zelda hype.
Okay. Huh.
Fair. I mean, obviously, it's not Tears of the Kingdom.
But wait,
Hmm.
when Link's Awakening came out, were you stoked for that, or were you just mad? I've already played this game.
I was like, man, I've already played this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like,
I played Link's Awakening on the Game Boy Color to death. Like I've beaten it 15 times probably.
okay, yeah,
Plus,
me too.
that's a remake. That's a remake. So it's a bit different. That this was like a brand new Zelda with a brand new mechanic. So there's a lot more to be surprised about. But anyways, just because I have a feeling Derek's going to be more negative, I'm going to start with you, Kloski. Why don't you just tell us, what did you think of the game? We've all beaten it.
I think I said to you the one thing that I was never expecting, and me coming out of my mouth ever, any playing the video game in my entire life, would I ever think I'd have to put a bed down, get in that bed to recover health just to get through that boss battle? Like that's stupid. It's Ganon, right? That throws the ball of fire at you, and you have to turn to Link and then use your sword and swipe back the ball at him, just like in a Link to the Past, right? That destroyed me as a kid. It destroyed me. My timing is never right. I take so much damage that I would be running around, getting in the bed, getting health. I that At the end of that battle, I was like, that's crazy. That's just I never like you made me do something that I never even thought I would ever think to do in a game. And I never thought I would build like ladders. The whole idea of it was very organic. You got better at it. You learned how to build things. Then once you got that power up that allowed you to jump taller and you didn't have to use the bed in between, it was just, yeah. I don't know, man. I really enjoyed it. It was just a lot of fun. It was different. It was lots of puzzles. I never used Link. I never fought anybody that way unless I like really had to during a boss battle. I majorly just, threw level 3 moblins at it once I got that, threw, 5 bats in the air and just run around and watch them kill people. Patience.
so was there anything that disappointed you about it, or
I found it, after it's funny because you do. I think I did 140 or 150 hours into Tears, another
I thought you
100
were gonna
into
say
Breath.
140 hours in Echoes of Wisdom. I was like, that's a lot of
No,
time.
no. So I think my count on my system is 42 hours, and I'm like, that's it. Like I wish it was longer. I wish it was twice as long. I wish there was a
Wow.
whole. Yeah, it ended too quick for me. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I've seen complaints online that it's too long.
Oh,
Um,
what? Really?
I think it
Yeah.
was actually perfect length. Perfect length. But Derek, tell us some of your thoughts about the game.
Yeah, like I enjoyed it. Like I'm not saying it's a bad game any means. It's better than most video games and most kind of Zelda likes. It's probably one of my least favorite Zelda games, though, personally. It's probably in the bottom four, let's say.
Wow.
That doesn't mean it's
Are
better.
we talking 2D? 2D only,
Yeah,
right?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, are you including like the trains and like all the like every game?
I totally forgot to mention Spirit Tracks
Your
and
tracks. Yeah,
those.
you didn't mention it
But
earlier. I wasn't
like
going to.
I
I
would
No.
will.
I would say Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, this game and another game like maybe Minish Cap or just like or Wind Waker might be the bottom five that I just didn't play a lot of or didn't like a lot of.
Yeah, I hated
Spirit Tracks is the only Zelda game I've never beaten that I actually have tried. Never finished that. So I'm not saying it's a bad game though. Like I would give it like I don't want to give it a score yet, but I would just simply say you know, I like when there's that monumental upgrade in a dungeon. I like when you have freedom, but not so much freedom you can break the game instantly. Like I think back to A Link Between Worlds, where it's like you really can pick dungeons and you can do certain things in the item rental system. Like there's a lot of freedom in that game. But this game is a little bit different where it's like, oh, I have to take this path up the mountain, or I can use this one ability that lets me like crawl up the entire side of the mountain, instantly skip the entire. Like I literally got to the dungeon at the top of the mountain doing nothing in in the mountain. I skipped that entire thing,
You talking
and
about
my
Linearu Mountain, the snow mountain?
yeah.
Yeah, you use
You
the
have
small
to talk to
gorilla.
the guy.
No, but I'm
No,
saying I instead of doing the whole path up the cold and whatever, I like literally took the spider and I got up to
Same.
the, but
Same here.
I got to the point where you were at the igloo house. I was like, well, I kind of just like skipped probably an hour of traversing up the
But
mountain.
that's what's awesome about the game. I mean, you
But
could
I
didn't
get
you
and
just go, didn't you go back and redo it so that you could
I,
find the hearts and find all the stuff that was missing that
yeah.
you?
I mean, I
Yeah.
did, but like
Oh,
I'm someone that I like the freedom, but when it's so I'm someone that also like believes in optimizing my performance. Like when I can do something really strong, I like to do the strong things, and that also kind of falls in the situation of like the echoes. Like you get like 150 plus echoes. I used the same 12 probably the whole game, and like Kloske, you're talking about like throwing 5 bats at the boss. Like I did that for one boss because the bats were the best option, and then every other boss, I'm like, why would I ever use a bat when I can use the level 3 Lizalfos every single time? So
mm.
again, it's not like this game has it's not bad. I really enjoyed it. It's just there's parts of the old Zelda formula that I was missing, and there's things about this Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the small gripes I have with those three games, it's still present in this game. So overall, I still really liked it. I just I was it wasn't fully the package that I was hoping for, I
I
guess is the way
mean,
to put it.
they're arguably never going to strike that perfect balance between a linear structured Zelda and they call it the open air style Zelda, where you kind of go out
Yeah,
of order.
yeah,
They'll
but they
never
don't.
strike a perfect balance.
But I get that. But I wish I could play a more linear Zelda game because I haven't played one in whatever you
Well, it
said,
seems
13 plus
like,
years.
but it's one of those things where it's like, well, I'm mad at this for not being a first person shooter. It's just not that kind of game. So to kind of go into it, we knew from the marketing it was an open-ended game. It's
Yeah,
the game they designed. So
yeah,
I can't go into it
but
saying, well, I wish it was more linear and structured.
no, and I'm just saying if they said Call of Duty Modern Warfare 7 and all of a sudden it's a card battle platform like card battle game, people are going to be upset because Call of Duty 7 comes with the idea of what Call of Duty 7 is. So when I go into the Zelda game, a 2D Zelda, I know it could be the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom open air freedom thing, but I also know Zelda comes with the other ideas too. If Zelda is there's 7 or 8 dungeons, each one has an item, each one has a heart piece and a boss at the end, and
But you know what? I would argue. I mean, they have said in interviews, Aonoma, that that style is kind of dead. Uh,
and totally. I'm just saying
that might just be it. And I think the natural evolution of that style.
but
I'm just trying
yeah,
to
but
argue your
I
point.
know, but let me just finish is I'm not saying I don't like the things that they're evolving. I just wish there was still the things that I hold really dear to my heart that are Zelda. I wish that they still had in this game. Like to me, seriously, like they had these moments of you're in a dungeon. Why do they not give these really cool upgrades each time? Like really, you got 4 or 5 echoes in a dungeon, which were useless because you could bring all your other echoes in, which I can talk about later. I like that we'll talk
So
about that. But
I was just
but the upgrades are think about what the upgrades are in those dungeons. In 3 of the dungeons, you get the sword, the bomb, and the arrow. I played sword, bomb, arrow a million times every single game of Zelda. Give me something freaking cool, especially for make it a Zelda-esque power up. And the second thing is, the other 3 dungeons or 5 dungeons or whatever didn't have anything. They had the ice block or the cloud, which are like, okay, like the cloud is helpful, but I don't even need it. The game's already so broken. Like to me, there's an issue with games, and this isn't like many games have this issue where they give you broken things so early that all the other fun, cool, broken things that are like, whoa, this could have been really cool, except I already have so many overpowered tools that no tool feels worthwhile anymore. I just can pick the same 2 overpowered tools. I like that kind of deflates me in the sense of like I don't have that excitement of like, oh my God, I have a fire rod now. Like that would have been awesome, except that I didn't ever have a need
Yeah,
for
but
it kind of thing.
you know what, I would actually disagree with that. And I think the thing is with this game is when I got a new item, like for example, like the bomb fish. When I got the bombfish, all of a sudden you were using that bombfish in certain puzzles and certain parts of that game. When you finally get the water block, you're using that water block. And it actually introduced physics into the game, like wind, fire, electricity, in the way Tears of the Kingdom did, the way that the previous 2D Zeldas didn't. And even though maybe it wasn't as structured as go into the dungeon, get this one thing in the dungeon, use this one thing in the dungeon, there definitely was situations where you got an echo and then you used it throughout the world in some form of way that was required. And I would say too, like I know the game can be broken. I've watched a 25-minute speed run of it already, but I never felt during my playthrough that I cheesed anything to the point where I was like, man, I really missed that. And if you think about it, like it's an open structure of a game. It's almost like Minecraft in a way. So when I climbed the entire mountain with a spider, and I skipped that little section. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool that I was able to do that. And that other section didn't have that much anyways. It was just exploration to find like Kloske caves, puzzle pieces, or the little blue pieces and heart pieces. So I never felt like I cheated the game. If anything, I felt like I cheated the shrines worse sometimes in Tears of the Kingdom when I
Oh my
realized
God.
I could just raise a platform, drop it, and reverse it, and I could go anywhere I wanted. Where in this game, at least you kind of have to find some sort of mastery of stacking things to cheat certain things. So I don't feel like the game I was able to cheese it or cheat it. I kind of felt like those elements were rewarding. And I didn't use only 12 items. I used a lot. Sure, there's items in the game that I almost never used. Like I don't
Defense
need
post.
4 types of pots. Um, and I also think that when there's 3 levels of something or 4 different types of beds, there needs to be like a better menu optimization for that. Um, but generally, like I see people online. I mean, I watched a lot of videos online, and like the interesting thing to me is that there's probably puzzles in the game and rooms in the game that all 3 of us did completely different things. And that to me is what like makes it so fun and so rewarding. Like when I play a room and I'm like, man, I can't believe I passed that puzzle by janking beds and like whipping a fire rod across the room. And then you realize, oh, you could have also done it another 10 ways. To me, that's like really rewarding and satisfying gameplay.
So I just
Um,
want to, I know Kloster probably wants to talk too, but I like that too, like being able to solve the puzzles in your own way. The only thing is, again, when you realize you have such overpowered tools, you kind of see like the code in the matrix behind the game where it's like, oh yeah, I could do this cool thing with beds and throw the fire and whatever. It's like, or I could use the clouds every single time. I
I didn't
just,
get the clouds till near the end. So
but I'm just saying, but even
I
then,
agree. The
it's like
clouds, you can cheese the whole game.
But isn't that part of the fun of the game is that you actually had the variety? Like I was constantly like I didn't want to just use one thing the whole time because that's not fun. That's not what I think the game was made for. It was like
totally, but for me, a better game and a better designed game. All this game is not well designed. But a better game design for me is when I'm forced to use
Yeah,
those.
you want to be forced to
To,
use it. Yeah,
because to me it's like I'm someone's like, well, I don't really want to have to try to figure out something that I know might work when I just know the clouds will always work or know the water block will always work. Like, so let me just tell you my one suggestion for this game that I think would make the best change to this game, is if every dungeon you took away their echoes. And Zelda said, "You're not in this dungeon, all your echoes are gone, and
you can only use what you get here.
only can
Like
use
an
the
Eventide
ones."
Island
Yeah,
situation.
you'd only get the ones you get in that dungeon. You get the six or seven. You go, oh my God, like how much to solve this with these six? I think it'll make the puzzles still really interesting.
That's a good suggestion.
You guys
Yeah.
not get to the dojo center where it
I
actually
did.
does that to
Yeah.
you? Because that I'll tell you, some of those
Those
challenges
were those are
fucking
tricky.
were
Did you do that,
hard,
Derek?
man.
I did one of them, but again, I got bored. Like I just
Okay,
didn't,
so
I,
Derek didn't
Uh,
really play the
so
game.
there was a whole bunch of them in there, and eventually there were ones where they took everything away from you, and you had to figure out how to do it in
I,
a certain amount of
That
time, and
that ice that
I did
ice
a couple
one
of those. Yeah.
that ice one really got me.
it was they were some of them were hard.
Yeah.
I agree. If they would have done that in the dungeons and made you do it like that, oh yeah, that would have been awesome. And
Hmm.
I hear what you're saying on that. You know, like I think back to A Link to the Past again, where all of a sudden it's like you couldn't get past this rock until you got the hammer to be able to or to be able to pick it up, and then you eventually had to get a level two power glove to be able to pick that up, so to be able to get further. Like I, it's funny. That's all reminiscence of like the original Legend of Zelda game, and then obviously built upon in like the second Zelda game, like which I guess you guys have never played because that you guys both said
I
played
don't
that.
miss that style of needing one specific thing to do one specific thing. I'll say I like to have options and different creative ways to solve problems.
But see what's funny is like I agree, but I feel like this game actually has done the opposite for me than it has for you, where you're like, oh my God, I have so many choices. Where for me, it's because so many choices are so strong that I end up just doing the one choice, as opposed to if you give me 20 items and each one does a different job, I'm switching all the items, I'm playing with all the items, where this one is you have 200 items that all do 200 jobs, but one of them is the clear best one every single time. I go, well, okay.
Well,
Why?
I guess the way that I interpreted it was like, sure, I can make beds and trampolines for a while, but there came a point, I mean, by the fourth dungeon of the game, by the time I got the water, I was kind of past doing that. And so I felt like the game actually powered me up at a good level, where at the beginning you're kind of naked. You got to really think a little bit about which enemy you're going to spawn to help you. But as the time goes on, you're right. You're like, well, I'm just going to stick to my staples. I'm so powerful. But by that point, is it still fun to choose? I don't know. Like to me, by the end, I felt powerful, and I liked that I could be like, oh, I don't want to stack beds anymore. I'm glad I can just throw 7 blocks of water up and do it that way. And it
I
just, I
never
don't know.
used
It's
block that way. That yellow block that you could get on top of and then put another one next to it, get on top of that one, and you could get really high that way.
the clouds to me were when I got the clouds, I got it late in the game, but the clouds to me, I was able to break a lot of the game by just cloud hopping. But it came so late in the game, it was kind of like it felt like a cool power up. It felt like it was justified at that point in the game. I'll say so. I one of my things that I struggled with this game, but I got over, and I'm interested to talk about this, was I find the inconsistent frame rate in this game to be like pretty atrocious. It's actually probably the worst frame rate I've played in well over a generation of gaming. Like,
Wow.
Wow.
I can't think of the last time I suffered a frame rate like this, to be honest. Maybe on the PS3. Uh, I don't know. But it was quite noticeable for me, and especially if I was interplaying between like Astrobot or something on PS5 or Mario Kart or Smash Bros. Like a clean lock 60. Like this game had a very inconsistent frame rate, and in those moments where the frame rate was good, it felt so smooth. Like when you're indoors in a dungeon, the frame rate felt really smooth, and I was using the camera a lot. Like I was using the right analog to move the camera around and you press it down, you get like the bird's eye view. So I was doing that a lot, and it even made
Wait, what?
so if Derek didn't even play the game. If you press R3, if you click in R3, it
Yeah,
like snaps into a full vertical bird's eye view.
Yeah.
that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so it helps. So it's actually cool when you're like climbing up a wall and you press it and hold it, and you're like, "Whoa, I'm actually like so high up," because you don't see it from the perspective.
That's cool.
But anyways, I just the frame rate was pretty rough, and I don't know if this is a fact of Nintendo had planned to have the Switch 2 out by now. I don't know if it was just a compromise. I do wish they had an option that said, "Can we lock it at 30 frames so that at least the frame rate is consistent?" What did you guys think about that?
None of that
Uh,
shit bothers me. I do not care about frame rate. I just want a good story and I want to have fun playing the game. That is frame rate. Oh my God.
You
Like we've
notice it though, right? Did you notice it?
Sure. You notice it gets a little glitchy, but like I just in my head I always go back to Contra. Like when I remember playing Contra as a kid and when it was crazy when that monster was dropping all the balls and you're shooting and your partner's shooting and the balls are disappearing because the frame rate is so bad. That's bad frame rate. What we're at now, sure it's a little laggy, but it's not you just keep playing.
It's just a blemish. To me, it's just a blemish on a otherwise perfect, How about you,
Perfect.
Derek? Well, the
I
presentation otherwise, I think is great.
Yeah, I like the graphics. I didn't notice the frame really being that bad. I noticed it in a couple areas around like the horse stable, like in the field. Like there's a few spots where I'm like I noticed it chugging. But for the most part, I was like, this is great. And I thought Link's Awakening was much worse. I actually noticed Link's Awakening frame rate issues. I'm like, there are times where I'm like, this is like, I can see the images clicking through where
Especially the swamp.
this game was more like, oh, I can tell it's not as smooth, but I wasn't like I felt like it was a slideshow ever. I
It was
didn't
never a
miss.
slideshow.
So I
Um,
really, and like, I'm not probably as frame sensitive as you are. And also my Switch is so old. It's an OG Switch.
Mine too.
My fan of my Switch is dead. So if I play too long, it overheats and shuts the system off. So I'm at the point now where it's like, if my Switch is playing a game at all, I'm pretty happy to kind of like coast through that. So I know it's an old system. I don't really, maybe I did notice the frame rate, but I just kind of like give it a pass almost. It's like to me, it's such old tech, and it's like pushing a good
fair.
looking new game. I'm like, I just whatever.
It doesn't reflect into my score, and also I know in the future when it gets re-released or released on Switch 2, it'll be smoothed out. If it's an unlocked frame rate, it means that which it is. It means that future hardware will just fix it automatically.
Mhm.
And they've already confirmed backwards compatibility, so we almost know Switch 2 will fix this issue.
We
Um,
know Switch 2 is coming out next year. Like that's like all but confirmed, right?
they confirmed that by the end of the fiscal year, which is by the end of March, they will show it.
I've announced it. Okay.
If they don't have it released by the end of 2025, I'm telling you, investors are going to be pissed and the stock's going to tank.
Okay. Wow.
There's too much investor pressure and like people are already like, why didn't it come out this year? And I think it's
What's the
they
longest we've gone between systems? Is it not now? This will be
right
the long.
now.
Yeah,
This is the longest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
totally.
And what
So
was it? GameCube to Wii was 6 years, right? That because I remember that
GameCube
being a
was
long time.
2001 November, and then the Wii was 2006 November. So 5 years.
5 years. Oh, and we're at seven. Oh,
The
crazy.
shortest lifespan of a console was the original Xbox in 2001 November to Xbox 360 in 2005 November. It came out, well, if we're not including Sega here. Sega had some mishaps. But in terms of the current players, then yeah, the Xbox only had a 4 year run until 360
but
came around.
and that's only home consoles because handhelds there's shorter lives than that.
Totally. And I think like the Sega CD and the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast all had very short lifetimes.
We know what
If you
happened to Sega, so
we
yeah.
don't have a
I'm
Sega.
surprised the NES and to the SNES wasn't shorter.
Well, the NES came out what 85, and then the SNES was 91.
Hmm.
Night. Yeah, but Japan, right? Because we got it later here. That was
We
the
got it
problem.
later here. I think we got it in what 87 here,
Yeah, that's when I
but it
got
was
mine. Yeah.
85 in
I have
Japan.
the original receipt too, Derek, and the
Cool.
original manual and everything. I need to
Is it?
frame it. It
Yeah, I
needs
was
to
gonna
go on
say,
the
is that not
wall.
framed?
It needs to. I showed it to Hatch once. He goes, "What are you doing touching that?" He's like, "It's a kid." He's like, "Stop touching that."
So the other thing back to Echoes of Wisdom that I appreciate is that, and I really liked about it being, kind of an open world. To me, it was an open world. Is there was so much stuff that I missed in the game. And I talked about this earlier, Kloske. Let me just
Well,
list off some of the
the
things that I
fairy.
missed.
This guy missed
Let
the
me
big
list off
fairy.
some of the things that I missed, and you guys can let me know if you got them all.
Yeah.
So I never found the Great Fairy in the middle of the lake. So I
That's like
switched charms the
hold on, no.
entire game.
Hold on, let me just say that's how you know Peter never played A Link to the Past.
Well,
Yeah.
no, but
Right.
here's the thing. I'm
Yeah.
running through the
Yeah.
game thinking, okay, at some point there's going to be something that allows me to wear more charms, and then by near the end, I'm like, I guess there's not. But
Wow.
I don't mind because it made the game a little harder. And I know I think Kloski, you and I played on normal, and Derek, you played on hero mode, right?
Yeah, hero mode the whole time, yeah.
So here, let me just list a few more things that I missed. So I got a lot of charms. I got the big jump, swimming, reduced power. I'd never used the climbing one because climbing was infinite. It was speed up climbing. That seemed completely
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
Uh, I only use smoothies for life and more power, and once I used fire resistance during the dragon boss. But I never really cared to use like holding your breath longer or certain buffs.
Or ice or whatever. Yeah,
The buffs
totally.
did nothing for me. I used the fish water bomb the entire game because I did the dungeons in a funny order and got the bombs very late. So I literally used the fish bomb the whole game for
I
bombs.
use the fish bomb a lot. Like
Yeah, yeah, no, me
90% of
too.
my
I don't.
bombs. Yeah.
Okay,
I
because
was trying to think. When did you actually get a bomb? That was
there's a floating one of those floating mushroom guys is one that throws bombs.
Oh no, that's not how you get bombs.
Well, no, but Link can use bombs too. You're right. Link
That's
can
the
get a
yeah.
bomb.
that's the only way I use
That's the
bombs.
only way I would. Yeah, that I'm with Derek.
Oh,
The only
I
way.
got that.
Besides the fish.
I never threw a single bomb in Link power mode.
Oh, I was gonna
I
say.
only used the fish, and then I got the little fluttering mushroom guy who throws bombs, and then you can get
I
Link
never
later.
thought to use him to throw
I
bombs when I needed to
Yeah,
bomb
I never used
someone.
the mushroom guy, the floating mushroom guy.
That's
I
so
see
funny.
online people spamming him as a like an
Oh,
attack.
no, I threw that guy in that had the spikes everywhere when there was a bunch of groups. Whatever that.
I'll
Uh,
also say I never found Lionels.
Me
they were in the
neither.
Lost Forest.
Yep.
I explored the Lost Forest a lot and did not find them.
I didn't even find the Eastern Temple.
What's the Eastern Temple?
Garago Temple, the Jirago Temple, or not Jirago.
Garuda.
It's the one in just east in the field. There's a guy standing outside of the temple.
Oh
He
yeah,
gives you
from A
it's
Link
a
to the
life
Past.
buff, right? It like
Yeah,
makes you take more less damage.
from A Link to the Past, right, Kloske?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Never
yeah.
did that dungeon. I'm so like I only beat it yesterday, guys. Like last night at 4 in the morning, actually. So
Uh,
I'm gonna go back and do some of this stuff. But I wanted to see what I missed. I never did the Zappy Shipwreck, which is like a mini dungeon with a
yeah.
boss. I never did the Cotton Candy Hunt
Oh,
temple
wait,
either.
wait, wait, wait. Sorry. Can we talk about that for a second? Can I tell you how much that threw me off? How they were both Zoras were represented in this game. I didn't understand. I had to legit Google that and be like, River Zora, Sea Zora. Wait, what? Oh, they're different. Oh, what? I never. I've never put that together in a game before.
Hmm.
Have they ever appeared in the same game before?
No.
No, it was a big
Okay, good.
deal.
Thank you. That's why I was so thrown.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
anyways, the last thing that I never did, like you said earlier, Derek, I got one automation. I used it once, and I'm like, why would I ever spend the time to wind something up? And I went back and even looked up what all the automations were, and I
they're
still
dumb.
feel that way. I don't see any point to them in this game. They seem like a total waste of whatever, and
Still can't figure it out.
I would have rather those other D-pads given me like some sort of like special menu to choose like my top five favorite things or something.
Yeah,
Um,
a hotkey, a hotkey.
yeah. But anyways, where do you guys land on those things missed?
I I didn't I saw the guy with the horse and I think I brought the horse there, but I never actually got like a horse to summon. I don't know if there even is a horse to summon. I just never got that or know how to do that. I never really did the dojo, but I did see it. I tried the first one, I think.
Dojo's great,
Um
Derek. It's like Pikmin challenge levels. Like it's actually really fun to go back
I
and do.
did one of them, like it was cool and I was gonna come back to it, but like honestly there's so many games and this game just wasn't holding me enough to like go back 100%
The
it.
dojo to me is the peak. It's like doing those Pikmin challenge levels. It's like peak skill challenge. Just so
Okay.
I implore you to go
Okay.
back and do this. Spend an
I
hour on
might
it.
honestly go back when I have a better Switch. Like when the Switch 2 comes out, I might go back into 100% this game and go back and play Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, automation, that stuff I missed a lot of. I missed a lot of those like kind of like the blue currency to power up stuff. Like I'm sure I missed a lot, but some of the things
Oh,
that you
you didn't
mentioned,
power up your bombs, your boomerang, and your
I
sword?
did.
I maxed out my sword and I maxed out my energy meter. I
Okay.
think I did bow once. I never used bombs ever unless I was forced to. Um, so like the thing I honestly missed the most is probably by finding the fastest route through the overworld sometimes. I realized I missed like 8 caves and those have treasure chests and stuff. But one of the things that I am not a fan of um is a lot of those things that you explore, they give you like a golden egg. And after a while, I'm like, I really don't need any more golden egg smoothies. Like even on hard mode, I have 20 smoothies that all heal me 15 plus hearts. Like I have no need for these. I wish there was a bit more. Um, like substantial currency upgrades, if that makes sense. Like, like even Korok seeds, like there's something worthwhile by collecting those. Where this is like I either got a smoothie or I got the two main currencies that you're looking for. I was just hoping there was a bit more reason to kind of explore, if
Getting
that
the
makes sense.
charms was cool though because you could have missed them and they
Yeah,
really did impact the
I,
game and
I
you
actually do have a question. So, in the menu with all the smoothies,
Yeah.
I think it's the smoothies. Below it, there's a row of like 12 other items.
I have no idea.
I got
Potion.
two I got two of them, but I never used them for anything.
There were 10 potions and 69 smoothies.
Not
That's
not not
No,
types
there's like
though.
another row. It's like where you get when you get the sword from the dojo
It's like there's
yeah.
one that says
and there's like
ornamental
a
fan. Like you get an
yeah, like
ornament.
I think those are just like things, right?
Mine was all full when the game was done.
But I
But
thought they were
what are they
like part of a.
for?
I thought they were part of like a trade quest or something, but they're not. I really don't know what they were.
I agree. I got to look that up.
I
I thought they were part of a trade quest too.
I also never found what monster guts or monster stones, whatever one you like. I never found out what they were used for. I got
Oh,
like
they
20.
use
Potions.
for potion or for
Always potions. All the
smoothies.
monster parts were potions.
No,
Not
no, 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 no.
potion.
There's another thing. So maybe I never made a potion.
You
Like
can
like
make
like
smoothies with the monster parts.
smoothie. Hold on, no, no, no. Because smoothies have monster fangs and monster guts you can throw in, and they do certain things. There's two things for the smoothies, but there's something else purple that you collect when you once in a while you kill an enemy. You get it's not a monster gut, it's a monster something else. Monster part. I think it
Oh,
was monster
oh,
part.
that's isn't that what you used to go to the trinkets? Wasn't that isn't that what you gave?
Automations, I
Yeah,
think.
that's the automations thing.
You
Oh,
spend it
okay.
on automations.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
I
more you
never.
got of those, you gave to that well, what's that
D
guy's name?
Dampe.
Yeah,
Dampe. Dampe.
Dampe.
Yeah, he collected those things that you're talking about.
Okay, I never knew what to do with those.
And
So
Yeah,
I
that
that's
also
why.
made
Yeah.
I did all the riffs too, the little mini riffs. I made sure to do all those.
I did 90% of them.
Oh yeah, my
And
map was clean.
So
so
Kloske, what
you
about
cleaned up,
you?
right, Kloske? You cleaned most of this stuff up, right?
I did all of these things. Yeah, there's nothing that you guys have talked about that I didn't do. I did all of it. I don't know what I didn't do at this point. Like I had 20 hearts. I had all four bottles, five bottles, four at least four bottles.
4 or 5? I don't
I
remember.
had
Yeah.
three. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
I think the only I had all the wardrobe. I will say that once I
I
got
missed
that
so much of the wardrobe.
the
How much wardrobe
Dorado,
are there?
It's like
I don't
10.
10,
Oh, I
20?
have I
No.
But
have
some
like
of them are amiibo only.
Oh, I did. Okay, I
oh.
never used an amiibo once. I found it all in
There's a bunch, but they're just like variations. Like they don't actually give you a
I
power
thought it
up.
was just the cloak and the dress in the Gerudo.
the
No,
Gerudo
it's
was the
the
best.
cat costume that
Oh,
you
the
can talk to
cats.
Oh,
cats.
Yeah, sorry.
cat was good too.
I have those, but I didn't get anything else.
I never got the Grudo one. Lets you do a longer spin.
I also heard
That was awesome.
I read online because I was looking at where to find those blue gems, like the ones for upgrading your energy and stuff. And apparently there's an accessory that helps you find them. But I never found that accessory. I don't know. You
Me
know which one?
neither.
Yep, I got that too.
Where did you get that?
Where is it?
Fuck man, I don't even remember.
I read online it said it was
a
like a
month
great
ago.
there's like a
This
great
was a
fairy
long.
side quest, and I couldn't figure out where the great fairy side quest was.
You know what? Straight up, I'm probably
Oh,
gonna go
you
back
got
and
it from
clean
that
up.
treasure chest in front of her, right? You opened up that treasure chest to get it. In the great with the great fairy, there was a treasure chest within that room within her. I think I
I'm
found
sure.
it in
I
there.
never found the Great Fairy, so that's
Hmm.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm gonna clean up my map, I think, honestly. Like I kind of
Yeah.
beeline to the ending because I realized I had to finish it for this podcast, and I didn't. I beat like th 2 dungeons yesterday and 2 dungeons the day before, so
So I
Yeah.
do want to say one thing, like the final boss is okay. Like I didn't love it, didn't hate it, but the boss that I thought was awesome was the mid Ganon like mid game Ganon fight. That was a wicked boss. Like that, like every time he kept coming back, I'm like, oh, like I was like, oh, it's gonna be three times. You're like, oh, there's a fourth time, a fifth time, a sixth. I'm like, that was
when was
wicked.
that? What dungeon was that in?
It was like the blue Ganon that threw the fireballs. He had hit back at him, and he threw the fire. Like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
like the hardest boss in the whole
Yeah.
game.
This is what I was talking about when I used the bed because I was like about to die and
And
I couldn't
so
figure
Can't
out.
believe you pulled a bed out during a boss. That's
I went in
hilarious.
with 20 smoothies, and I was playing on hero mode. Truly that was like a Dark Souls boss moment. I must have died 15, 16 times trying to beat
I
that.
got so
I like
frustrated. I turned my system off, went to
like
bed, and played it the next day. I was
like
like, okay, I got it.
I was like, finally, I got him. Like, I finally beat the fourth phase. I'm like, he's got to be dead now. And he comes back and kills me. I'm like, what the hell? I have to do the whole thing again. Oh, that was a hard boss.
There
Yeah.
are some, some moments in the game where you're like throwing a bunch of echoes around, and you're just like, I'm like, what's happening? It's just I'm creating chaos and doing nothing. Um,
So that's I did like some of the bosses. Like there's the one with the electricity stones, the spider or whatever. But that one I just like threw a bunch of electric bats. But I liked like the bosses are great, but again goes back to the issue of like the final boss. I literally if you target and you press the do the level 3 Lizalfos,
that's what I did the whole fight.
it comes out and instantly does an attack. So I had to go, well, I guess and I can respawn it. I was like, the boss was a joke, like
I agree, but there
totally a
was
joke.
there was something really awesome about. I mean, I agree that it was basic, but there was something really cool about like spawning two of those at a time and having Link fight and just like the chaos. And meanwhile, I'm trying to dodge all the attacks. It wasn't very hard, but I actually found it pretty easy. I had so many potions as well, but I don't know. There's something really cool about the chaos of that moment, being like, wow, I'm like Link's actually controlled by the computer. There's a bunch of explosions and things happening. And I'm spawning with magic two of these guys. It felt like a big battle in a way that a lot of Zelda games don't have that feeling. So
Hmm.
I
I
did love
like the final
fighting
boss.
alongside Link was pretty fun. I did really enjoy that. That was yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was one room though where you had to like make him jump up.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
about? That
yeah.
room was I found very tricky.
Oh,
However, I did it. I think I did it I did a really gimp way where I'm like, I don't know if I did it the right way. But so, I gotta say, some of the puzzles in this game actually did kind of stump me a few times. There's a few times where I was like, I don't know what to do, and I had to kind of think differently. And I remember I talked to you about this, Kloske. Like, this game makes you think differently than other Zelda games. It makes you sometimes think outside of the box, and I really like sometimes you solve a puzzle and you're like, I have no idea if that was the right way to do it. So puzzle wise, I was satisfied. Nothing was so hard that it was like The Witness, Derek. Like it wasn't Baba Is You level
No,
puzzles,
for sure.
but
but
this is hard puzzle games he plays.
some of the shrines in like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like some of those did mess with your brain a lot, where you had to
Yeah.
like really like, okay, that didn't work, that didn't. You try five or six things. I found that in this game too. Like I found this to be more puzzly, but not like super complicated puzzly, but just like, okay, I got to think differently. Okay, I got to think differently. But you had to keep thinking differently. It wasn't like, oh, once you thought differently once, you could just keep using that same strategy. Like some games like fall into that. Like you learn something and then they're like, okay, we're gonna keep making you do that throughout the game. I liked how it they switched it up on you.
Yeah,
The like there are two or three like good puzzles where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. And you're right, Peter. Like there's it obviously isn't the witness or whatever. Like, but there are some really good puzzles. Like the one where there's like quicksand. It's in one of the earlier dungeons. There's like quicksand in a pool around a really tall rock pillar, and on top
Oh
of it,
yeah,
what is one of the yellow like spirits that you got to collect. You can't put beds down because they get swallowed by the quicksand. So I'm like, frig, how do I get up that high? And I went online after I did it, and everyone's like, oh yeah, just like go over to the other area and take the bird and fly it over there. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of doing the bird. Like I had the most like hectic contraption built where like I was on the ramp and threw a bed and then a trampoline and then had like
I
two
think
ice.
that's how I got it too. I used
me
a
Yeah,
too.
random contraption.
I
yeah,
learned the bird thing later when I was like, how do I get over? Oh, I gotta get the
I
bird.
yeah.
didn't realize that you could echo a bird and then grab it.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
didn't realize that. I thought the only time I could do it in the whole game was when I grabbed a cuckoo from Kakariko.
Uh,
So when I see online everyone's doing these floating magic tricks everywhere, I was like, wow, like there's a whole element to this game I didn't even know about.
yeah.
I want to ask you guys just so the three final dungeons, it was Farron, Lanayru, and Eldin, the lava one. I think I did them in the opposite order you're supposed to. I did Farron first, the swamp in the jungle. Then I did the ice mountain, Lanayru, and then I did the fire mountain. So I went right to left on the map.
I did ice fire swamp. So I got the cloud first, then I got the bombs, then the swamp. To me, the swamp was the hardest dungeon, and I'm glad I did it last. Like the electricity kind of puzzle, I was like, this is a wickedly hard dungeon.
And I did
Yeah,
it
I did that
before,
one
so
first. I did that one first like a dummy.
same.
Yeah.
Um,
I did
So,
it your order. I
uh,
ended with line with the snow mountain.
yeah, I did that one first. 'Cause I again, I climbed the mountain to see if I could, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm at the
Oh,
cutscene. I guess I'll
cool.
just
I'm
finish
going
it.
there. Yeah.
you didn't skip. I did the same thing, Derek, but you didn't skip as much as you think. Like you have to trigger that first
I
cutscene to initiate kind of the game. What I would
I
call like the gameplay segment
I
pre-dungeon.
know, but the reason I was a little bit like frustrated about how I don't want to say easy, but how I kind of circumvented that was because I think back to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom when you're cold and you have to figure out how to warm yourself. And I realized I got to the mountain and I saw myself being cold, but I instantly walked into the house and didn't have to deal with the cold or heat. I was like, I don't know how I was supposed to stay warm. I didn't have to do it
You just,
ever.
I think drop some flames around.
Yeah, I just never had to do that.
Um,
Yeah.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? The one of the things I really appreciate about this game that I think maybe easy to overlook is the pacing was really, really good. And for how strong each little story segment is, like every dungeon has its own little story. You're visiting a town, or you're dealing with kind of a character like the head of the Gorons, or the conflict with the two
Did
Zoras.
did you read the story and all the cutscenes? I skipped everything.
For
Why
sure, I
did you do
did.
that? This is
Yeah, I'm
uh,
just gonna say like, I actually think this is like one of the best Zelda stories.
yeah, it was such a good
Not just
story.
overall, but the mini segmented stories have a lot of heart. They're not overwritten. They're funny. They've got good little lessons about like, they're less typical Zelda lessons about like fall like, when the one Goron is like following in his dad's footsteps and reading his past way father's stone tablet, and at the end he's like he realizes like I need to make my own path, and he uses the tablet to like break the boulder, and he loses the like that's like in my opinion that's good writing, and it was touching, and also it wasn't overwrought. Like a lot of Zelda games, Skyward Sword especially, you're
Skyward
reading
Sword.
and reading and reading and reading, and even Tears of the Kingdom, I'm watching the same cutscene 4 times every dungeon. The story's a little overwrought in places, where this felt like perfectly succinct and bite-sized, but just enough where you're still getting a really good story. So I actually really appreciated the story, and like probably more than any other Zelda game. I'll say it right now, other than maybe Ocarina. But like this game just had this, just each segment I really appreciated. What do you guys think of that? Derek didn't really partake, but
Yeah,
So let me just give my one sentence. So I'm not a big story person in general in any games. Zelda's stories don't do much for me, but the thing I don't like, and the reason I probably skipped it, is I don't mind story. I don't like when story stops the game constantly. Like I
it
relate
didn't
it.
in this case though.
I know it wasn't. This was not as bad, but I really hate a lot of Pokemon games because it's like you walk 15 feet and all of a sudden it's another trainer that comes. Like someone like, explains what wild grass is, and you walk another 15 feet. It's like this is how you use a Pokeball. I'm like, let me just play the freaking game. This felt a little bit like that to me at certain times. Other times, like 95% of the game, I was like, oh, I can do whatever I want. This is fun. But the 5%, I'm like, I just want to get to the next dungeon because I'm really looking forward to the next dungeon. I was like, oh, I have to go through like quite a few dialogues at that one heavy kind of moment. I get it. Like, I'm just not a story person, so I'm not faulting it for it. I'm just saying for me, I'm just not a story person.
I liked how it fit in the lore, how it kind of added to all the Zelda lore, how it talked about how
Lure.
wars and wait, is that the wrong way of putting
You
it? It's
said
not lore.
lure, and it's like lore. It's like just
Lore.
a
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, lore. But yeah, yeah, I like how it all. I like how it fit into everything. I don't know. It was, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
So is this, maybe you guys will know this Kloske more than anyone. Is this game supposed to take place in the same world as A Link to the Past?
Yes,
Okay, okay.
it's in that broke or what is it? The Broken Hero or the
But
that
is it
lineup
after, before that in Between Worlds?
after A Link Between Worlds and after a Link to the Past.
Okay, okay,
After all that, yeah.
okay.
Another thing that I really liked about it too that we haven't touched on is the music. I thought the music was fantastic. Some of the best, well, maybe not the best, but like some of the better music in the 2D series. I think A Link to the Past still reigns champion there because it created a lot of these themes. But the way that Echoes of Wisdom kind of did these variations on the themes, like it almost did that kind of childlike pan flute, but it like used a variation. And I really like the main theme, so I really appreciate the music in this game.
No, it was great. Yeah, no, the music was awesome. As all, I don't know, all Zelda games, they obviously put a lot of effort and time and money into orchestrating, into actually making these songs that don't. I like to think of it as songs that don't annoy you, and you actually are like you don't even realize the music changes, or you're humming along to it. Like the Kariko Village song, was it not like a rip from the Breath of the Wild? Am I wrong by that?
I believe it was like a variation of the classic Kakariko Village.
Yeah, yeah, okay, like from Ocarina.
Yeah, or Link to the Past, right?
Yeah, that's where it was. Yeah.
And then okay. Yeah, is there anything else that You guys want to touch on before we give our final scores? Like, was there any highlight or particular weakness that we haven't mentioned?
The
No.
the midpoint boss of my highlight, the weakness was um kind of just what I explained. Like I really think that the biggest issue for me is or would have been solved if they did what I said, where the echoes only existed in that dungeon. Like you got them in that dungeon, and the overworld you could use whatever, but in the dungeon you only could have what you got. I think that would solve like it would just change the whole game for me, I think.
I think that's actually a clever idea. But
I almost want to self-impose that challenge on me and play the game again.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. And especially because when you go to the dojo and it does force you to do it, it really does make you think about which ones you need, which ones you don't need, how you actually do it in the time. Yeah, that'd be a good challenge.
Hmm.
I would love if they even released DLC and they expanded that dojo huge, like give you 100 of those. Because those are when I started playing those, I'm like, this is the best mini game in the whole game. I
Mm.
thought.
So you got the
Uh,
green tunic then,
no,
Hatch.
I have all but two because you know why? Because I did the dojo before I did the last dungeon. So you
Oh,
have to you
oh,
have
so
to
it opens
have the
more. Yeah,
memory
yeah.
to go there. Yes, but I cleared my list and then he's like, I got the all the power-ups from him. And I'm like, these are great. And then he's like, you need to go get more memories before coming back. And that
Yeah.
was last night at 1 in the morning. And I'm like, I got a beeline to the end here, guys.
Okay. So
What power-ups do you get from him? What's
good job.
You get a charm that allows you to let your power up go slower.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. And does the green tunic do anything, or is it just a costume?
Costume,
Just a costume.
but you get
But
to look like Link. So in the
Hmm.
final battle, you're Link and Link.
I feel like I will probably go back to this game once I clear through some of the games I currently have on the docket and finish it up fully.
yeah. Um yeah, I guess that kind of sums it up. I'm trying to think if there's any other things to talk about. Yeah, Derek, you mentioned the final boss. The final dungeon I felt was a little bit like a mini quick dungeon. Didn't do much for me. But I thought the dungeons overall were great. Like
Yeah,
there was
me
never
too.
wasn't a weak dungeon, and some of the dungeons were a little more open, some were more linear. I was okay with that.
And the
Yeah.
puzzles were good in the dungeons. Like even though again I felt like I broke a good amount of them with one item. Like it's not like the puzzles weren't good puzzles. Like I liked how they made them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Kloske. Well, why don't you give us your summary of your feelings about it and your score?
So, okay, I have a question about this. First of all, I'm ranking this against all other Zelda games, like all the other games that we've talked about. Like I'm ranking this
We
game
usually
against
rank
Tears of the
our
Kingdom.
scores just in a general sense. So yeah, well,
Like
I
out
was
of 10.
I was gonna ask. I did tell you guys to give me a little bit of a rank, how where it ranks on your 2D Zeldas.
On my 2D
Um,
Zeldas.
yeah. Although I haven't played as many, so I don't have much of an opinion there. But the
Yeah,
score is generally just like how it lands out of 10. You know, like think of like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah, yeah. So okay, so this to me would be like between a 7 and an 8. Like
Okay.
probably definitely closer to an 8 on the scale. As far as 2D goes, it's definitely higher than like Minish Cap and Spirited Tracks, and I mean, I couldn't put it higher than Link's Awakening because I think, like you, I played that on every system it was re-released for. So like, I knew that game inside and out. When it got re-released, it was amazing. This was better than Zelda 2. Like that game is annoying to me to go back and play.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
annoying.
that's where I'd put it somewhere like in the middle of the 2D games, mid to high in the 2D games. There's
Okay.
been so many great Zelda games. That's all I'm realizing right now as we're talking.
But I mean, if you're thinking all games, like even you think about like Lego, Star Wars, and all these other games that you play, is it still between a 7 and 8? Because I mean, typically people give Zelda and big Mario and Zelda games kind of they rank it between an 8 and a 10 because like a bad Zelda would be an 8. Kind you know that kind of vibe?
Oh
Like a
yeah.
like the
Oh,
worst Zelda or Mario would be getting like an 8 out of 10.
oh
Peter,
well,
you can't don't
I'm just letting
do
you know how
I know,
like the
but
online ranking system usually
if
goes.
that
This
if
you're
like,
that's
pulling in
how
a
it
Nintendo fanboy right now by trying to have
but no, but
someone else's
but am I
reviews
wrong?
skewed
Like
higher.
I'm not really
No,
wrong. Like
you're not. But
no
I'm
no
just
no no
saying,
no, but
you know,
it is
Kloski can give
interesting.
his own review how he wants.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'd still rank it at like an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I
okay,
wouldn't go any higher than that.
what do you say, Derek?
So I think, I mean, I've already talked about my issues and the things I like. I think this game has a lot of great things. Like I really do. I'm not saying they need to get rid of their ideas and this is a bad game by any means. I really liked the game. I have issues with it. I think there's things that could be improved upon. I think there's things that I miss just because I love some of the original older Zelda formula components. Um, Overall, like, my feeling playing the game, I felt like this game is more like a 7.5, but I would agree with Peter. It's like, if I really think about the
Zelda scale.
yeah, like the how many games there are. Like this game runs well. It has good puzzles. It has music, story. Like it's competently done. Like it's obviously higher than an 8 in as far as like the grand thing. But when I think about the games that I play and really like, and where I think of an 8.5 on my enjoyment scale or an 8, I give this one maybe a 7.5, 7.8. Like I liked it. It wasn't, a game where I'm like, this is really great. It's more like, yeah, this is a pretty good game. Um, as far as ranking it between all the 2D Zeldas, this is probably right in the middle. If I think about how many better 2D Zelda games there are, but how many worse, it's probably right in the middle. Like I think Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass, I never played Minish Cap enough. Zelda 2 are all below, but I think above I got Oracles of Seasons, Ages, Link Between Worlds, Link to the Past, Awakening. So it really does kind of fall in the middle of it's like it's not a bad game where I'm like this is trash tier. It's also just not in the 2D of like this is going to go down in the 2D Zelda always be remembered, kind of like how Link to the Past is. But I think Between Worlds is much closer to a 9, for example, in my rating system, where Link to the Past is an 11, but A Link Between Worlds is a 9. It's a really really great game. This game is more like, it's a good game. I liked it, but it's not like I'm gonna remember this one forever.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. It's right in the middle. All the games that you just said are all better than it. There's games that are worse than it. Yeah, totally.
Hmm. Peter?
Well, for me, I think you'll be surprised that it's probably about a 2 out of 10 for me. Uh,
What?
I'm
How
kidding.
can
I'm
you
kidding.
give it a
I'm
two?
joking.
Oh,
I love this game. I really loved it a lot, and I even beyond some of the obvious flaws that we've talked about, I haven't played all the 2D Zeldas, but in my opinion, this is the one that I connected with the most and want to keep going back to, and I feel like I can replay it. And I think it did take becoming non-linear for me to really like this. And I feel like it went to a non-linear place even better structurally than A Link Between Worlds. I love A Link Between Worlds a lot. I love the wall mechanics and all and everything, but this game, I don't know, this game just felt like a living place to me, like in a way that other 2D Zeldas didn't. Like the world feels alive in a way, and I think that's because you can manipulate so much of the environment, the physics, the different characters. So I actually love this game. I think it's probably my favorite 2D Zelda.
blasphemy.
I know a Link to the Past has like the nostalgia and when it came out, and I understand the impact that that had.
But not just
Uh,
nostalgia. Link to the Past is like still on its own
Genuine.
today.
Still a fantastic game. I
It's still
know
the best 2D Zelda. Like forget nostalgia. It is
for
You've
just
never
sure.
you've never
the,
beat it? You've never finished it?
No, but I got near the end. I think
you
I
probably
got
got you probably got like
within
four crystals, maybe 5 crystals.
and there's seven, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably where I got. But there's something about A Link to the Past needing one thing to do one thing and going to this dungeon, but I think you have to go to the dungeons pretty much in order. There's a little bit of breaking you can do, but not a lot. And there's that game actually frustrates me in a way where it's like I need to know exactly what I need to do the next thing. And that's something that this game completely reinvents. Echoes of Wisdom completely reinvents that approach. And like I really appreciate that. I felt free in a way that no 2D Zelda's ever made me feel. Where it's like I can really just run any way I want, and I'm gonna find something, and I'm gonna it like kind of like that rewarding system you get from Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. Like any way I go, I'm gonna get something, and I'm gonna find something, and I'm gonna crawl. Oh, I can crawl over these trees. Oh man, there's a whole jungle here. Oh, there's a whole town here. Oh, they're having a problem. Let me solve the problem. It felt organic in a way that the other 2D Zeldas feel like I'm just in a maze. So I love this game, and I think the music and the story and bringing Zelda in was great, and all the dungeons landed for me, and it felt like a good challenge, but never too hard. So yeah, I'm probably gonna give this a 9.5,
Oh
which
wow.
yeah, it's very high, but I just can't really find a fault in this game. I mean, I
What is
feel
your
like
Breath of the Wild score or
it's
your Tears
10.
of the
Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and Ocarina of Time are full tens.
Most Nintendo games are
I'd probably
9.5
give
plus for Peter.
I well, it depends. I mean,
What's Metroid Dread?
a 9.
Do you think this game's better than Metroid Dread, or this game's better than Metroid Dread?
Uh, in my obviously, here's the
Wow.
thing. I have a little bit of a bias towards Metroid because it's my favorite franchise.
Hey, no, that's why I like how we asked you this question. It
So
was a good
I'm not gonna inflate. I'm trying not to inflate Metroid Dread because of that. Because in some ways, Metroid Dread to me is a 10. But I just recognize the obvious flaws of that game design. Where
But
in
you,
this game, the flaws don't seem to impact it as much for me, and I don't
wow.
see much room where they can improve on it. I feel like Metroid Dread, they could make another 2D Metroid that very much improves on that formula with better environments, better music, some better improvements. Where
better
this
map
feels like I don't know what
game.
another top-down 2D Zelda game that lets you echo every single thing in the game and uses physics. They just, in my opinion, they nailed it. And
What?
obviously, with this game design style, there's gonna have issues with cheesing things and figuring out ways to OP
But
situations.
I'm just shocked because like I could understand you giving it a high eight, even a nine or a low nine. 9.5 and saying it's better than Metroid Dread objectively or whatever is like I can't believe you just said that. Like that's mind blowing.
Well, I don't know. We'll see how it lands. I mean,
I think in 3 months you'll settle more
you
like an
might.
8 point
There's always the
8.5.
score once you immediately beat something, and then there's a score later on. I think in some cases, Metroid Dread has gone up for me because I've beaten it multiple times. I think this could go down. It's not going to go up to a 10. And something like Mario Odyssey, when I beat it, would have been like an 8.5, has gone up to a 9, 9.5 over time. Sometimes games can change over time based on our memories of it and based on replays. Mario Kart 8, for example, has gone to a 10, where it maybe started off as an 8.5. But yeah, but right now coming off this game, I'm on a high, and it's definitely one of the best games I've played this year. It's better than I expected it to be, and I'm really impressed by how they let you make an echo of everything and all. I didn't expect all the inventive ways that you could play with those things. And also it's becoming a big game in the speedrun community, and I don't know, it's just the ending of the story, all the little stories really landed for me in a way that other 2D Zelda games don't. So I just loved it. I thought it was a great game. It'll definitely be on my top five game of the year.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, you gave good reasons. Fair enough.
Yeah, I just
I'm just surprised because I mean, you do rate Nintendo games high,
yeah.
truly.
Well, I love them.
Yeah. I just, when you compare it to other games that you really love, I'm just, that's, you really appreciate this game more than I thought you would comparatively to other Nintendo games.
I didn't expect myself to like it this much.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't super fond of uh a Link's Awakening. Like that was like an 8 for me, maybe a 7.5.
Hmm.
But I just love Zelda games, and I love this. I know some people yearn for the older style of Zelda, but I actually love the open style. I love this kind of Minecraft infused openness to the classic gameplay, and I felt like this game, almost even more than Tears of the Kingdom in Breath of the Wild, merged the progression and pacing of the older Zeldas with the open style of the new Zeldas.
Okay, fair enough. I have a question for both of you. We've seen kind of the evolution in the 3D Zelda. We're starting to see kind of some evolution in the 2D Zelda. Where do you see the 2D Zelda games going next? What parts of this do you want them to move forward with and expand upon in what ways? What do you want to bring new into it? Like what do you kind of see changing and continuing to develop or stay the same from this game moving forward into the 2D Zelda space?
Good question. What do you think, Kloske?
I think that they need to get back to more what you said of like items being more important because that to me has always been a root of Zelda games and even Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. You still needed specific items to do specific things, even though you had to do some things in order and some things you could do whatever order you want. There's always those like benchmarks of like I need this, I need to do these things before I at least can do that. I imagine, unfortunately, that they're going to stick more in this open world, do what you want to do thing. I don't think that that's for the betterment of the series. I want it to go back like you. Uh, and truthfully, I actually don't really like when open world games. Like even Breath of the Wild, when I first played that, I had never played Skyrim. I had never played any of those other like the Elder Scroll games. So by the time I got to Breath of the Wild, I'm playing it. And I'm like, I don't understand. I can go anywhere. This is weird. And so it took me a while to get used to that. And I don't know if I like it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So that's my 2 cents on it. Unfortunately,
So
they do more though.
I've been thinking about this actually a lot. Like where do they I stay up late in bed thinking about this. What are they going to do with the next Zelda? Because
We're
I
talking about 2D Zelda.
but it's what my answer has to do with both because it's like where they're going to take both because they took both in this direction, right? They
Yeah,
opened
yeah.
up with a Link Between Worlds and then they brought that to Breath of the
Okay,
Wild and
but so you talk about it generally, but I also want you to kind of like also specifically talk about the 2D
okay.
space.
So I one of the things I liked about this games is like the feeling of like survival. Like I need to find something to use something to survive and carry on. And I think actually what would be a neat way to go and what direction they might go is making the games more in the sense of you're having to survive in the wild where you don't get it's not this typical Zelda where it's like, here's the world, here's the situation, here's the five crystals at the five different points on the map you need to go. It's gonna be more like, I don't know where I am. I'm in the middle of the jungle or the middle of the woods, and I need to like get a stick and a rock and make a thing, and I need to go take that enemy down to get a skull to make a thing, and kind of like a
Survival
more of a
crafting game.
survival crafting and more of a Minecraft approach, and then maybe you find more curated dungeons around the world. I even think it could go as far as being a procedurally generated open world and actually be able to play it with friends. Like a 2D Zelda where it's like, hey, let's play together. We're both surviving. The world's procedurally generated, meaning no open world map's the same, but maybe the placement of 10 different dungeons, you can the cave entrance or the entrance to the dungeon is the same, but they're placed differently randomly around a randomly generated map. And it becomes like a people are going to hate this approach, I think, but it's going to
Oh
be
yeah, I
Just
hate it. I
I
hate
want
everything you
Kloske,
just
wait for me to
described.
wait for me to respond.
Sorry.
I
What?
just but I think
None of that is what a Zelda game is.
I think
If the
there's no
castle's not in the
way
middle of the map, I'm already mad.
they're
I'm already
not they're
mad.
not gonna go. I really don't think they're gonna go back to the linear formula of one item gets you to one place, maze and key system. If anything, we're gonna see remakes of Ocarina of Time. Like maybe we'll see a remake of Ocarina of Time that's like way better graphics, like a remaster. That would be really cool. But I think if they're gonna do something new with Zelda, it's gonna be something really new, and it's gonna be pushing the some sort of gameplay boundary. And I just thought this would be a different approach. I just like the idea of like being Link in the woods and like literally not knowing where I'm literally not having a map, not knowing where all the points are on the map, and just being like, I gotta just run through the woods and like almost like a more immersive exploration where like I'm not flying way up in the air and seeing the town or going up the stairwell to the town. It's like I'm just running through the woods and the graphics will look great because it'll be on the Switch 2, and I'm just running through the woods, and I'm just gonna happen upon a town. And there's moments in Tears of the Kingdom of Breath of the Wild that had that element of like you just happen upon things. And I think removing the map and removing like the obvious gamey structure, and maybe adding some of these survival elements of like having very little at the beginning of the game. Um,
Peter wants a hunger meter and a thirst meter.
Not even that, but it's just like, what if you really don't have enough? Like the very beginning of Breath of the Wild, it felt a little bit like a survival game. And Tears of the Kingdom were like, I don't have enough life and I don't have enough items to take on this camp. And very quickly you do, and you have weight, and you figure out in Tears of the Kingdom you can cheese this and cheese that. It becomes cool. You can become OP. But I just think that survival element of like, oh man, I really got to be creative with what I use here and what they have here and my items that are going to break. I really love that gameplay structure, and if they can harness that for the whole game, it'd be really cool, I think. And they can still introduce things like you said, Derek, where it's like, oh, this dungeon, there's a big flame in front of the door. I cannot get in this door unless I have ice arrows, so I gotta come back here. And then way later in the game, you get the ice arrows. Then you get there, you get in, and then once you're inside that dungeon, it's all catered around the ice arrows. I think they can still have that type of gameplay in puzzles. I just think to me, it's all about how the open world is structured.
So I'm gonna I don't like most of your idea, but I'm gonna say what I kind of envision, and talk about 2D and 3D Zelda, I
Okay.
guess is kind of the in between where I don't mind the open world. Again, I think my biggest issue is when there's 300 choices and all 300 choices are good, then it becomes the idea of I'm the one creating my own fun, which isn't a bad approach, but it's like, if I want to do the magnetic box and drop it on this guy that explodes the fire barrels that I've also played, like that's really fun, but it's like I am the one setting it up. So what I would like is again having not 40 items that each do a single job, but I'd like to have like 8 items and each one does 10 jobs. So I imagine like, let's say the hook shot, you use the hook shot, but you can also use the hook shot around a tree branch and it all of a sudden becomes a pulley. And then you use the pulley for something, or all of a sudden, you set it as a tripwire and you like, I would like where you get an item in a dungeon, you get the hook shot or the bow or even the shield, let's say, and there's like 7, 8 things that are like this is really things you can do with this. So if like the shield, for example, like maybe it reflects beams and lights, but it also is surfing. Like you can surf on the rocks with it, and maybe you can hide and do something else. Like I don't know. Like I just would like it where you get an item and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I have like 10 hours of like figuring this item out and what this cool upgrade I just got unlocks so much gameplay potential of like things I'm trying to just like naturally figure out. And I'm like, oh my God, the shield can do this too. Thank God I found the shield. And Dr. Peter said the firewall in the door. I don't necessarily need it to be like, oh, I got ice arrows, but it's more like it'd be really cool if there were like 6 or 7 really solid ways to do that, or 6 or 7 solid ways to beat a certain enemy. And I only have 2 of them, and all of a sudden I found another way, so I don't necessarily need it to always be every option works. I want the creative freedom. I want it to be able to say, I got this really wicked moment. And this thing I know beats, I know this item works really well on armored guys. And all of a sudden, oh, this guy's a slime guy. What happens when I use this? Or maybe I gotta use the hook shot a different way. Is there something I can do with that bot? Like, I just want a little bit more of that. Um, Not every option is a good option, but there are still cool options. And I still like that exploratory of like I really want to open a chest and go, "Oh my God, I got the boomerang." Like what like I really think back to Twilight Princess and the boomerang with the gale, like the wind, the tornado. And I'm like, "That's really cool." Like what a extra way like really the Twilight Princess boomerang has so many uses. If you think about all the ways you use that wind to propel things, to pull things to you, there's a lot of really cool things with that. Of course, the spinner and the ball and chain in that game don't have a lot of function, but I would love if they took that kind of like that boomerang has the whirlwind, but maybe you also get the in the next Zelda, you get the boomerang with the whirlwind, but there's also a way to like switch the gem and the boomerang to 3 different things, and there's a boomerang for one, but there's also I don't know, one that sucks the light out of the room and makes the whole room dark. Or maybe there's one that, it shoots a web and pulls 3 guys towards you. I don't know. Like, I just wish you got the boomerang and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, there's so much with the boomerang. I could play the whole game with the boomerang. And then all of a sudden I got a new thing. Like, I have so many toys that I want to play with, as opposed to having so many options that I don't really want to play with any because there's so many. I want options where it's like, oh my God, I want to spend my whole time with that. Oh my God, I have another one. Like, I really like that idea.
Yeah, I guess I mean like even if there's a rope with a thing on the end and like there's so many if they really worked in the physics of how a rope could work.
Hmm.
That could be its own whole game. I mean, that's complicated design, but if any after what they
Well, I
did
mean,
with Tears of the
yeah, to the
Kingdom,
kingdom, I'm like, it's not that crazy to have a hook shot that becomes a pulley, or a hook shot that becomes a tripwire, or a hook shot that becomes a lasso. Like, you really could do some really cool stuff with that. Um,
or they
uh,
just put Link in space.
Ah.
give him a lightsaber.
Okay, guys. Well, we're kind of running out of time, but I'll leave one last little prediction question for each of you. What's the next Zelda game we're gonna see? And
Is that
do,
not what we just
no, I
said?
don't. I don't mean where they're going to evolve. I mean, what's the next? Are we going to see a remake? Are we going to see a 3D Zelda in
Oh,
10 years? Like, what's
no,
the
it's gonna be a
next
remake.
actual Zelda we're
It'll
going
be
to see?
it'll be a remake for sure. There's
Well,
no way.
which one specifically?
If it's not Ocarina, I'll be shocked. If it's not Twilight Princess, we haven't gotten a Twilight. Oh no, we got Twilight Princess for Wii U, so they've already kind of quasi ported it to 1080p, right?
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I think saying Twilight Princess or Wind Waker Switch ports would be a cop out.
I wouldn't do Wind Waker. So then I would probably say if it's not Ocarina, I'll be shocked. How that game hasn't been remade in 1080p blows my mind.
I
So
agree.
I agree. Ocarina remake is a natural choice. I could also see. I don't think so. Just coming off Echoes of the Wisdom, but I could see the Oracle games getting that kind of makeover. Like
I
the
hope
That would
that's
be
my
cool.
dream.
Those games are lost on the Game Boy Color, and
Yeah.
they're fantastic games. My dream, which I know isn't happening, and I know Peter's gonna say this. We talked this before. It doesn't make any sense of how it would work. I would love if they remade, okay, not just upgraded, but remade Link to the Past as a 3D game. So they just
Oh,
like
weird.
so they just made
They
like I
did.
know
It's called Ocarina of Time.
I know, but I just mean just I would love for that game to kind of just like have a whole three-dimensional like just make it a huge game, but still capture the same essence. Like almost like I'm trying to think of a good game that has done similar. Like I would say Resident Evil 4 to Resident Evil upgrade, where it's like it's not the same game, but the heart's still there, and it just like it. I think that'd be really cool for
It's
some.
well, like Metroid Prime is a first person version of Super Metroid, really.
Well, even then, it isn't
So
quite.
similar. It's the same story, the same starting the same. It's so similar. They almost
Yeah,
that's how it
they're
started.
pretty. You're right. Like I just that's kind of what I mean is like taking. There's very few times if people have taken a 2D game and remade it as a 3D game and really done it well. And I think Nintendo would do that well. I think they would really think about what it means to change the dimensions of the game. Um, I think it'd be cool. I don't think it'll ever happen. I just think it'd be cool.
You know
You
what?
gave me pictures of me like on top of that mountain lifting up that mirror to have to go like I gotta get to the other world.
Yeah, like I think that'd be
It could be
wicked.
cool. Yeah, like a totally re-envisioned version of that would be really cool.
Hmm.
I think Nintendo's gonna have the Namco Soul Calibur team do a fighting game with Zelda.
Oh, we're talking about anything to do with Zelda? You didn't really
Like any
clarify that.
major release. I mean, a major exclusive release, yeah. Uh,
I think there's gonna be Hyrule Warriors 3 then.
okay, well, that could have been an answer too.
Yeah.
Wow, you think so? Do you think that that the Calamity did that well?
Did pretty
No, but
well.
I think they're just easy and cheap to make, and they already have an engine, and I
Ah, I mean, I loved both of them. I played through both Hyrule Warriors,
I
enjoyed
think we'll
it.
get I think we'll get the what's the second one called again? Age of
Calamity.
Calamity. I think we'll get a DX version on Switch
yeah,
2
with all the upgrades.
with all the upgrades, maybe another bit, maybe some Echoes of Wisdom stuff, and it'll be finally at a smooth frame rate.
And
Maybe online play.
I'm
Maybe online play.
sure Link's crossbow training 2 is coming anytime
Yeah.
now.
I really think, you know what? I
Fun
mean,
game.
we all remember when Link was in Soul Calibur 2. I've always wanted a fighting game that was in that style with all Zelda characters and all Zelda locales. I think that'd be really, really
That would be
cool.
really cool, actually.
Like not just Smash Bros. Style, but a Zelda fighter where it's like
Yeah, like
It's Mortal
like
Kombat style.
a Street Fighter
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, Street Fighter. Yeah.
and it's like that genre is like hard to sell. You know what I mean? And Namco already did it with Pokemon. They made Pokken. So we'll see.
Hmm.
All right, guys. Well, we're just about out of time. So thanks for joining us today.
For having me. That was a lot of
We'll see you in 5 years for the next Zelda.
fun. Sweet. 5 years it is.
All right, guys. This is Nintendo Rose Pete signing out.
Derek, see you later.
Kloske, peace out.